So July 20th, 2020, we finally saw the radio silence on Shin Megami Tensei 5 break during the Nintendo Direct Mini, where we not only got a glimpse of the setting of the game, but also the best possible news, that SMT5's release would be a worldwide affair. So, in the spirit of the game's announcement, I've been going over the trailers that we've seen so far, and coming through for details that may give us a clue to what the game is about. So, I thought I would make a video sharing my findings and speculations on everything we know so far about SMT5, and how I believe the game will play out from those trailers. So let's start where this all starts, with the first trailer for the game itself, this being the Unreal 4 engine reveal trailer that occurred during the unveiling of the Nintendo Switch in 2017. It's weird to think that SMT5 is as old as the Nintendo Switch. The trailer itself was seemingly never intended to give off plots for a new game, but more so act as a proof of concept for a new mainline game, with it showing off many classic Koneko designs in Unreal Engine, alongside revealing that they would be keeping some redesigns, such as Masayuki's Tokusatsu-esque Odin. The one aspect of these trailers that seems to remain throughout all of the other trailers is this focus on flowers specifically, with this trailer using roses as its main focus, as they're not only growing over the pillar that contained the logo for Atlas, but also the petals that fly in from the window post the conversion to what I assume is the Vortex world, and flowing past Odin after his reveal. And while roses are commonly used as a symbol of love and beauty, they also carry with them another meaning, this being the fleetingness of life, or death as such. And even some cultures celebrated festivals of the dead with roses, such as Rosalia in the Roman Empire. And that's all we got for most of the year. Then around October of 2017, we got the first official use of SMT5 as a title. This trailer also showed off quite a few things. First, of course, a glimpse at our protagonists, alongside a female companion accompanying them down a Tokyo subway station. The two seem to be close friends given their body language. We're also greeted with a portion of Genesis 7:11, specifically quoted from the King James Version of the Bible. All the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, which is a verse itself that appears to point to a specific day in the life of Noah where the Great Flood began and the end of civilization as he knew it. The trailer also focused on the word open, which of course in SMT fashion implies that our character may create the coming end of the world in some way, likely with our main character opening up these windows to heaven. Maybe the world won't end in a literal flood like the story of Noah, but I wouldn't count that out completely, because it wouldn't be the first time. And knowing floods in this series, this might be the second apocalypse to hit this world, especially since this world that the main character is in seems to be a paradise for chaos, and the flood itself was intended to wipe out something like that. So we may be ending the world a second time to wipe out the chaos for law if you go down the law route, but that's just an assumption I'm making from this quote. We then enter an underpass that is littered with the bodies of demons, post what I assume is a war between law and chaos. Given that the bodies down here belong to chaos demons like Oni, Fornius, Andreas, or Dakini, along with some law bodies like a couple of archangels and a Karama Tengu. Along with this, for a brief moment, the word Shekinah glory can be seen, which is known as a visible manifestation of God on Earth, which the presence of is usually portrayed through a natural occurrence such as a burning bush, which could imply that our character will meet some sort of manifestation of or the Great Will at some point in the game. Maybe even Steven will count as something like this. Along with this, it would appear the dead/dying demons in the underpass are leaking Magatsuchi, much like in Nocturne, giving me the implication that this game will take place in a Vortex world-like setting, and the third trailer more so confirms that for me, but we'll discuss that in a moment. We are then met with another quote-like set of text, this being in the lightless age of corruption, which is only a segment of a whole quote. The full thing reads out to, in the lightless age of corruption, we long for the dawn of a new Messiah, which is a very SMT2-like statement, though Messiah also seems to be a catch-all term for protagonists in the mainline series. I believe a Messiah, by definition in the series itself, is someone who has the strength to kill God or kill a godlike being, which is kind of funny when you think about it, but I believe that's what it's going for here. I don't believe we're going for a Messian figure. And this quote finishes after the depiction of our new protagonist and the girl that he was with for the first portion of the trailer being ganged up on by a group of assumedly new demons. Though if I had to guess, this is either an updated design for Ukobek or Incubus, but it's always possible that this is just straight up a new minion-like demon, though they do dogpile the protagonist and their friend, assumedly causing their death. as their hand reaches out from the pile and then soon followed by a burst of roses, obviously symbolically replacing the blood from their death. Also, of course, harkening back to Rosalia, Rosalia was where you would place rose petals at the grave of someone who died. So, roses used as a symbolic metaphor for death fits here perfectly. Along with this, it would seem that this could also represent Rose's meaning of beauty and love being destroyed, only leaving behind the connection to death. This also seems to imply that our new protagonist will suffer from a death of sorts, either in a physical way like Nanashi in Apocalypse, or in a metaphorical way like Demi-Fiend, who loses his humanity, and so forth dies as a human, and becomes a demon. But if you ask me, that looks like the deadest group of people I've ever seen. Along with this, much like the Shekinah Glory text that we see, we also see reference to the dot, which is part of the Tree of Life found in Kabbalah, as it is where the 10 Sephiroths of the Tree of Life unite into a common place. The dot can also mean a lot of things, such as being the empty slot of the Tree of Life where any Sephiroth can be placed. Along with this, aspects of the dot correspond with the idea of man being made in the image of God, which of course could be playing into the Shekinah Glory that was mentioned before. Also, of course, the dot has a connection to knowledge, which knowledge seems to be a core aspect of SMT5 as well. And this is all that we can take away from this trailer. There's a lot of ideas that are presented here, but we have no real concrete answers. And we just have to sit and stew on this for about 3 years until July 20th, where we got our surprise third trailer. And this one seemingly was designed to cement those ideas and help us build up expectations for what we should look forward to in SMT5. Starting first with an army of leaderless angels confronting a horde of demons led by the big dog himself, my L-Man, Lucifer, with a voice, assumedly Lucifer, explaining to the angels and humanity as a whole most likely that God as they know him is dead. This also seems to take place in a similar wasteland-like location that we saw during the second trailer, but also it reminds me a lot of where you meet Jonathan in SMT4. But this area reinforces to me that the location of the game will be a Nocturne-esque vortex world. We then move to a similar looking subway passage, but it's now more crowded, though this time, unlike the second trailer, our protagonist is walking alone among the crowd. And we finally get to see what they look like. And they are very androgynous in design. That leaves me wondering if they are male or female. And the removal of the friend that we saw in the second trailer doubles down on this curiosity, as she gave us sort of an anchor to the difference between male and female designs for our leads. But now with her absence, we don't know what our main character is. They have enough of an androgynous face that they could pass as either. Though it would be fair to assume that they are male, given their uniform design, as it is the average male school uniform. But it's not against Atlus's nature to make androgynous characters cross-dress, so I can't say for sure based entirely on the outfit. But speaking of that uniform, we can also assume from this that they are on the older side of adolescent, given they have a third-year pin on their collar. And across from it seems to be their own school's unique pin, which I believe is a flower that we see on the design with a crescent moon. Along with that, the outfit itself is covered in a floral pattern of white lilies. Now this pattern was shown off in the second trailer, but I wanted to save talking about it till now. So white lilies in Japan can symbolize purity or someone being untouched by corruption. But it's also a flower of rebirth, or specifically rejuvenation of the soul. They are often brought to either funerals or weddings, since, much like the rose, it celebrates both aspects of life. The white lily and the rose are very similar. So it's not too far out of the question to assume that our protagonist may die in some way and be reborn, similar to Nanashi in Apocalypse. Maybe that's what's occurring at the bridge-like area that we saw in the second trailer. Our character is dying there. In fact, it would seem that we wake up underneath a bridge similar to that. So this could be how we lose our friend and move on to another place. Though the bridge that we wake up underneath in this trailer is actually not a bridge. It's an underpass. And thanks to Did You Know Tensei, the location seems to be based off the Tokunawa Bridge underpass, which also helped them roughly work out the possible height for the protagonist as well. So this could actually likely be the exit to the tunnel that we saw that was littered with bodies in the second trailer. Along with this, the book our protagonist is reading while he walks among the crowd is the Japanese edition of Paradise Lost, which is an epic poem that contains a somewhat sympathetic but still critical story detailing Satan, who is Lucifer, and his fall from grace alongside the corruption of Eve, and with her all of humanity, within the Garden of Eden after they eat the forbidden fruit of knowledge. Which of course, this book ties directly into likely the prominence of Lucifer occur within SMT5, but also connecting the Fruit of Knowledge to the knowledge of the Dot, and overall gaining knowledge as a whole, which I still believe is going to be a core aspect of SMT5. We then have a cut to our protagonist waking up in the underpass, either after being attacked or being transferred here to the new Vortex world, with Lucifer continuing his speech about the fall of God, claiming that order, or law, has crumbled away and that chaos reigns in this place. And through chaos, this world will be reborn, but the future itself is still unknown, which is a very Nocturne-esque statement, as it would seem that we are seeing what the world of chaos would look like fully unbound. And then we get a visual of our protagonist about to be swarmed yet again like in the second trailer, until a beam from the heavens blocks the path of the demon, and a new figure appears before the protagonist. While I think a different voice begins to speak, chiming in that in a world without its creator, which path shall you choose? Which implies that this game is an SMT game. It's obviously going to offer up different paths for different endings. Though, I'm not sure if we'll get a law, chaos, and neutrality route, or if we'll get something Reason-esque like in Nocturne. I'm personally hoping for the latter, as I find Nocturne's reasons to be way more interesting. Though something of great interest to me is this new demonic figure standing before our protagonist. Atlas has obscured their face in some way, but we do get a portion of his design to work off to start speculating on who it might be. First off, of course, the symbol on his chest, which I make out to be somewhat of a large demonic-looking 9, which symbolically the number 9 has a lot of meanings. For instance, in a religious sense, 9 can mean divine completeness or finality, as it is the number in which all can be reborn or led to salvation through, which being reborn ties into obviously the White Lily aspect of our main character and the Rose aspect of him as well. Along with this, in Norse mythology, the 9 is associated with Odin, as it took Odin 9 days to gain knowledge of the runes, which again, that is another aspect about gaining knowledge. That's 3 different possible connections to knowledge gaining. But of course, another 9 in Norse mythology is the 9 realms connected together by the World Tree, which I believe could be connected to the Tree of Life from Kubala. And I feel that this connection to the Tree of Life is reinforced by the fact that the Dot is a connection of 9 separate points into one segment, much like the World Tree connects 9 different realms. Along with this, the Dot is connected to knowledge, and Odin obtained knowledge through his hanging from the World Tree, much like you obtained knowledge from the Dot from being the center of the Tree of Life. But also, our protagonist takes the hand of the man who appears before him with the 9 on him, and when they actually shake hands, a spiritual tree appears behind them in the background as a magical unwinding occurs. Which, given that both trees are somewhat connected to reincarnation, it leads me to believe that this figure in some way is going to act as our version of Dogda and bestow onto us the power to fight or tame demons. Now, I have some ideas on who I believe this to be, so I'll list my candidates below and my reasons for them. First, I think we might be seeing a fully evolved true demon Demi-Fiend, as there's a 9 on his chest which could be symbolically part of the Amala, which allows him to freely travel between worlds, much like how the World Tree connects between 9 different realms. The red energy found throughout its design is that of the true demon design that we see as the final stage of the Magitama in the true demon ending of Nocturne, as Demi-Fiend's tattoos glow red when he fully rejects his humanity. Also, the general face shape and hair of the demon that we can make out from a single frame looks extremely close to that of Demi-Fiend's design. It also helps that they purposely obscured the face so that we couldn't make out any more details besides that, and along with this, prior to SMT5's reveal, we saw an announcement for the HD port of Nocturne, which really puts Nocturne in everyone's heads when thinking about that demon. My second candidate is Loki, a demon that we actually haven't seen an update to in Unreal. We don't even have an updated model from Persona 5 to work off either, as Loki was a plot-relevant demon in that game, so his design was unique. Along with this, the demon being Loki would make sense with his connection to 9 in Norse mythology, along with Odin, of course, but also the first SMT trailer focused on showing off Odin's redesign, so it could be a wink and a nod that other classic designs will return in a changed form as well. And the third and most likely answer is the Archangel Barachiel. Barachiel is one of the 7 rulers of heaven and the 9th watcher of the 20 leaders of the 200 fallen angels. He's also the leader of all of the guardian angels as a whole. Barachiel is also strongly connected to roses, as well as stated to leave rose petals wherever they go as a sign of God's blessing. So likely our character's death and resurrection through these roses is this symbol of divine blessing in action. Barachiel is also an angel that commands lightning and lightning bolts, which could be what is happening when this demon lands before our protagonist. Barachiel also hasn't made a full-on appearance in the series before. I believe they've made an appearance in a spin-off game, so this could be their first big debut. Barachiel could could also be designed in the same sense as Metatron, with this sort of demonic-looking presence being explained as more of a mechanical angel-like shape, even having hair similar to Metatron. Though at the end of the day, the most likely answer to who this person is a new sort of demon or deity altogether, instead of a returning character. This is why I think Barachiel is the most likely answer. Though I do find it kind of strange that they are obscuring the face of this demon, given that Apocalypse and Deep Strange Journey use their redesigns as sort of a selling point for the game. Though at the end of the day, it looks like we'll be making a pact with whoever this is in exchange for power. So with that all understood, I feel like SMT5 is clearly aiming to be a Nocturne style game. I imagine it will focus on a press turn setup, just like Nocturne, with a lot of the quality of life improvements that we see in SMT4 and 4 Apocalypse, like demonic whispering for our own personal skill changes, along with the fact that I think they'll bring up a mechanic much like Smirk that introduces a spice to the overall gameplay style, but it won't be directly Smirk. The story itself, I also assume, will be playing on concepts of forbidden knowledge, likely mixing that with reasons, where all of the side characters we see throughout the game may obtain knowledge in some form or another that they want to use to shape the world how they see fit. Maybe Odin will belong to the rival character to us. But until then, and until we get more information on the subject, these are just my best guesses as to what we have to look forward to in SMT5. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/ManyNotTheBadGuy. Patreon is a very helpful platform that helps me continue to make content as much as I do, so please, if you want to help support the channel, head on over there. The littlest amount helps. And if you want to obtain forbidden knowledge of your own, well, you can do so by buying a copy of Shimonetta, A Boring World Where the Concept of Dirty Jokes Doesn't Exist at buyshimonetta.com.